this book always makes me think of how powerful Stryfe really is. This is X-Force issue 17, which is part 8 of the X-Cutioner's song. And last issue, Stryfe has come for the man who basically denied him any type of affection and what he needed growing up in the future. And before we dive into it, let's talk about who made this book. This is A Tale of Time and Vengeance, brought to you by Fabian Nicieza, the writer, Greg Capullo penciling, Harry Candelario doing the inks, Eliopoulos doing the lettering, we're just going to go Frenchie Buccellato doing the colors, Bob Harris editor, and Tom DeFalco counting the dollars. I miss those jokes so bad. So, last issue, talked about Apocalypse is not completely healed yet. And as we enter this one, it says, inside the temple of B'nai Maza, behind the walls of yesterday, the battle for tomorrow begins. It's time, the time has come, Apocalypse. The devil to come must pay due to the devil who made him. Pay me, master of time, and let your death be the coin of exchange. I owe you nothing, Stryfe. And then true 90s form, man. I've missed these vertical splash pages because it's just so much art and awesomeness you could slam in. And just look at the way that Stryfe is able to, just with his mind, kadunk, liar! And he just knocks this dude. Missed that style. And Stryfe says, you owe me everything for that's gone wrong with my life. You owe a world for the wrongs you've hoisted upon it. Millions cry in agony every day, but the screaming is like unto silence when compared to the lonely cries of an abandoned child. So again, we all know it's 2025. We all know who Stryfe really is. And I'm trying to kind of play coy for those of you that are maybe getting into X-Men. And we'll talk about it as we get closer to the end of the X-Cutioner song. But we could see as we go through each issue how he's captured, Jean and Scott, made a deal with Sinister, and is now fighting Apocalypse. We can just see the hurt. I mean, listen to the way he says, how long has it been since you cried a babe's tears of need? How long has it been since you longed for the gentle warmth of a mother's touch? Do you want to know how long it's been for me? Forever. A soul of forever solitude brought on by you, father of pain, son of the morning fire. Trying to reach your teleportation matrix, Apocalypse? Trying to escape? Where can you flee? And so we see him draw his sword. Now that you know who I am, are you prepared to die? Yes, master of the time stream, destroyer of my past and my future, it is I. And now you end. Did outside, did inside, like me. A man out of place, a man out of time. That is some damn good writing. And that's why people say, well, you get a little too explosive. It's because we grew up with writing like this. We didn't grow up with, oh my God, look at this. I'm on Clip Clop and I'm eating my Power Dog diet. Yes, I'm bashing on that X Factor issue. But you get the point that this is a craft that I want to see come back. I want to see a renaissance of good writing and comics so that our modern day mythos survive the test of time, just like the old stories such as, my brain, of course, has to draw a blank. Every time I want Gilgamesh and the Odyssey, things like that, Moby Dick, Jules Verne. I know it may seem silly because in the 50s, these were called the funny pages. But when you read them, you can see how those type of stories from Shakespeare through all those more classical writers inspired modern writers of this time to give us something new, to be able to tell those type of stories in a relatively modern day setting. Now, getting back to that, now that I've kind of gone on a little, what is that word called? Antidote, we are going back on track. We are in the war room of Grey Malkin with Wolverine, Cable, and Bishop. Now, real quick, one thing I want to point out. I miss when Wolverine would just smoke and he just did not care. And he's like, Logan, put out the cigarette. You kidding? Flammable, carcinogenic, material in use, extinguish, procedure activated, procedure enabled. Now, keep that in mind. Now, with that said, They start to get some backstory on Stryfe. And Cable says, I first encountered him about 8 years ago. I knew he was a man out of time. How? Because so am I. I was part of the clan chosen who sought to overthrow the Canaanite rule. When we failed, I came to this time. So you and Stryfe are different sides of the same coin? Yes. No. Maybe. He came back to exacerbate the mutant rebellion, to try and prevent the High Lord ascension. I came back to try and control the ascension, to assure order in the future. There's just one problem. Well, one major one anyway. I recently fought Stryfe hand-to-hand and learned something about the man inside the armor. And I love the use of these different colors. Like when we're talking about the future, which is the past, we use more of these muted yellows. And the same when he goes back to the first time he fought Stryfe, how we get these more deep purples and reds and grays to give it a memory sense, but also to enhance how important this memory is, especially this part. So again, spoilers if you guys have never read any of these, so you've been warned. Pause this video, go check out the books, come back, and you're back. Logan goes to light another cigarette and says, I found out something that Kane, Weapon X, said was true. That underneath this helmet, Stryfe wears my face. Then he's a duplicate of you, or Cable of him. Flammable, carcinogenic material in use. System damage. Love it. That's just Logan in a nutshell. So I love that we get this heaviness going on here. It's very much a Peter David RIP type moment where we get these dark, heavy overtones, but just enough kind of to sort of let that tension just break for a second, because that's some heavy shit that we are talking about in this book. Now, last issue, remember X-Factor, X-Force, and the members that were allowed of X-Force and X-Factor took out the MLF. So basically the MLF is wiped out other than what Stryfe has at his disposal. Rogue's down, Remy's down, Pietro's down, Boom Boom has a shattered jaw. And I love how Sam's like, relax, Kay. I know how hard it must be for you to keep your mouth shut. Now, as we're walking away, remember, Sam has a chip on his shoulder because they are basically being incarcerated for what Cable allegedly did to Xavier. So he says, could you do a walk through the danger room? Some of your troops have been acting up. And remember, if we go back to the New Mutant books, remember how Sam was very much a unsure of himself type character, afraid to turn, afraid to make the big choices with Danny because he just was young. He was only 17 at the time. But now listen to him after being under the tutelage of Cable and actually having some real life experience under his belt. He goes, fine. Wouldn't want any of my soldiers acting up now, would we? Wrong choice of words, sorry. This is hard on all of us. I'm going to go check in on the professor's status. So I love that Sam is the type of self-proclaimed leader that he should be. That's why it chaps my ass that, again, spoilers if you've never read X-Force, but I hate that come about the latter half of the 90s into 2000, they just completely abandoned Sam being an external, because that was such a cool idea, and it was really starting to develop with him, getting ready to ascend and having this relationship with Boom Boom, and then just all of a sudden, whatever, and it just still kind of kills me. Now remember, apparently Richter and Rain were an item, which I don't remember where that was at. But Richter says, we've all been through a lot, Rainey. Even you with the things that happened to you in Genosha. And then Rain's just kind of taken aback, and she goes, perhaps I cannot say who's wrong and who's right anymore. Perhaps there's no difference at all. And I love Berto. He's always kind of had that Wolverine chip on his shoulder. He goes, oh, there's a difference, all right, Pumpkin. Just depends on which side of the bars you're on. It's just a great writing. You can see how they're friends, they've been allies, they've been teammates. But because of this schism that's happening, tensions are high and relationships are strained. Now we get into Jean and Cyclops trying to escape Stryfe's rule. And this is the Jean and Scott that I miss. Scott says, but the truth's more frightening, Jean. It's been Stryfe who has been keeping our powers in check all along. If he's a powerful enough telekinetic to keep your tech abilities at bay, what can we do to him? Only one way to find out, man of mine, the hard way. And if that's the only road to take, there's no one I'd rather have at my side. That was the power couple that we all missed from the 90s. Now, don't get me wrong. After Jean, of course, died again, his relationship with Emma is interesting, but early X-Men of him and Jean like this, that has always been my favorite. Now, before we get anything else with that, we then jump over to the mansion. And we just see this. Boy schmoy, what hit us? Whatever it was, Petey boy, I'll bet you Borscht Belt that it took out the big screen TV. And I love that before we even get this reveal on this page, we just see the hate in Warren's eyes, and he goes, "You, me, Warren Worthington, my son. And even though the ravages I have endured, I feel pleased to see my greatest creation, my dark angel of death, looking so predatory, so dangerous. A comfort indeed to know such fury is waiting to be unleashed, and that this game will soon come to an end." And that's another thing that I love that Scott Liddell did. And I've said this 1,000 times, and you guys are just going to have to hear it again. Scott Liddell and Fabian Nicieza both really did a good job taking everything that Chris Claremont, Louis Simonson, and to a lesser degree, I think it was Bob Lawton that kicked off X Factor, and just took all these stories and was able to mold them into what we got in the 90s. So it made you want to go back and read about, referencing Genosha, want to go back and read the Extinction Agenda. Makes you want to go back and read the early issues of X Factor when Warren lost his wings. Things of that. That's just a great way to make your own story, but make everyone else appreciate the past and be like, what are we talking about, Genosha? What happened between him and Warren? And make you want to go back and read the older issues. And that's how it was for me, because I dove into this era when I was a kid. I didn't know what the hell was going on. But it wasn't until I went back years later and started rereading all these classic stories that established what we knew of the X-Men that made me appreciate this overall. So guys, if you've enjoyed what you've seen, please first and foremost support your local comic shop or wherever it is like to get your action figures and comics, and either get this collected trade or this single issue so you can get all the cool trading cards, and make sure they're in the Mylar bag. So they're not in the Mylar bag, you're not going to get the card. It is what it is. If you've enjoyed this review, really would appreciate if you take a moment to like, share, and subscribe. Helps the channel more than you could possibly know. And if you wouldn't mind hitting that fancy little X bell next to subscribe, that way as I get to upload content, you guys get notified. Come to the channel, and I love talking with you all and hearing your thoughts and feedback down in the comments or the socials, which I'll make sure the links down in the description. So with all that said, hope you all continue to have an absolutely amazing day reading, and happy hunting, everyone.